Hello everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I'm so excited today to be here with Michelle, who's one of my champions. I think if you've seen any of our previous videos, I'm working with a group of patients right now that I'm calling my Fearless Five. These are patients, all of whom carry some diagnosis of some type of cancer that have decided to, let's say, go a little different than the traditional road with the management of their disease. And my main purpose behind interviewing this group is to find out the whys, and also, most importantly, to illustrate to other people that if they want, they can choose to live in faith and not by fear, which is the general context which surrounds cancer. Michelle's case very closely parallels a fella that Linda and I were fortunate to meet recently at the Gaylord. It was a program put on by Ty Bollinger and his wife, called The Truth About Cancer. And one of the people that spoke was a fellow named Chris Wark, and his website is Chris Beat Cancer. When Chris was 23, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he went and had surgery, and then he was recommended to have chemotherapy and radiation. He got a couple, we're going to call them signs from spirit or wherever, that basically instructed him not to do any chemotherapy and radiation. So he took a totally natural approach with his disease. 13 years later, he's 39 years old now, doing great, has not had a stitch of chemo or radiation in that time period. In Michelle's case, is very, very similar. These are patients, guys, listen now, not necessarily localized disease. Chris was stage 3. His cancer had moved into his liver at that point. Michelle is thankfully not at that point, but she does have a positive node, so her disease is considered metastatic, and the standard treatment for that is chemotherapy and radiation. So Michelle has decided not to do that, and I wanted her to have a chance today to tell her story as far as why she made these decisions and all the different things that she weighed in before she made these decisions.
That's true. I was diagnosed actually the day before Thanksgiving with stage 3 colon cancer. And so, prior to that, I knew I had cancer. I just didn't know how far it had gone. And I had done some research and had been on chrisbeatcancer.com and heard and read some things from his website, and I had immediately contacted Dr. Gonino when I found out that it was cancer, and he was helping me with immune support, nutrition, lifestyle change. And through that, all along, I didn't have a peace about chemo, and not that it's bad, it's just for me, it just didn't, it just seemed like it was going to be fear-based. And when I did, just doesn't make sense instinctively and inside me, my belief, I'm a Christian, I believe that, God created everything we need originally from the earth, and that's just kind of been how I've thought even prior to getting my cancer diagnosis. And so I've tried to raise my kids and do all natural treatments, and not that medicine's bad, it's wonderful, but as a starting place, I've always just gone more natural and tried to boost the immune system, and because that felt right to me. And I did a lot of praying, of course, scared to death. So with all that, I just decided, I think that it's going to be right for me to just build up my body's immune system. Obviously, I've polluted it, along with a lot of other lifestyle stresses, and make the lifestyle change, de-stress, get rid of all my fear, forgiveness, all the emotional things that, have added to that diagnosis, and just decided to treat it naturally.
Very good. At the same conference, Linda and I were listening to this Dr. Lodi, guy who treats a lot of cancer, as do we, and I really liked his attitude and his approach. And he said, managing cancer is very straightforward. Step number one is stop making cancer. In other words, if your patient's smoking, you got to get them to quit smoking. If they drink alcohol, you got to get them off alcohol. If they eat gluten, you got to get them off gluten. If they're not sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night uninterrupted, you got to figure it out and get them sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night uninterrupted. So number one is stop making cancer. Stop doing whatever created the issue to begin with. Number two is what Michelle did, is cut out the cancer. Basically, that's surgery, which is what Chris did as well. Number three is strengthen your immune system. This is what Chris did. This is what Michelle's doing. Nowhere in there does he talk about chemotherapy or radiation. Stop making cancer, cut out the cancer, and strengthen your immune system. So, Michelle, we thank you for being with us today. We thank you for playing the big game. We thank you for teaching the next generation that they can live in faith and not in fear. And we're excited as an office to follow this group of 5 patients in their journey. And we know that with each day that passes, that God's hand is in the center of it and blessing it and expanding it and blowing it up. And we feel privileged to be able to take these steps with you. So again, thank you very much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for listening and watching. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you soon.